So welcome to our second Twitch live stream with a non-zero amount of technical difficulties, but closer to starting on time. So today's theme is Meet the Team. So here's the team. Here's some of the team.
Excited.
Some of our key players here. So we're going to go around the room here and introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm John Welch. I'm the CEO of Making Fun. And these are some of my key team members. I think the person I've known the least longest is Ismael. We've been working together for 7 years now?
Yeah.
Something like
2016.
Okay, awesome. So why don't you go get started? Tell people who you are, your background, whatever you'd like to say.
All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Ismael. I've been a software engineer for about 13 years now. And ever since I was a teenager, I've always wanted to make video games. Like at some point, I was playing an online game and I found a picture of the team that made the game. And that just clicked in my head, like, what? There's people that do this for a living, this is what I want to do. So from that moment on, everything I've done is to, get closer to that goal of making a living off of making games. And I've always been passionate about RPG games are like my favorite kind. I play a lot of different games, but RPGs I would say is my passion. So actually, I'm really excited to be working on Eternium and the Eternium brand, on the different projects that we've been starting. So yeah, I think that's about it. Mauricio, I'll give you the microphone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mauri. I'm the head of art here at Making Fun. I'm from Uruguay, same as Ismael. And for me, it was kind of like the same experience. I think it was around 12 years old when I realized that, the credits when you finish a game that were actually people. And that was a critical moment in my life because, okay, now, there's people involved in those games. And I remember playing Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Baldur's Gate 1. Those are the two games that blew my mind, and from that moment, I just wanted to create something, that provoked the same experience and feeling for people. And so I was really young when I found, the career that I want to pursue, and I started, fast forward, I was 19 years old, 20. I started doing my first freelance, working as an illustrator, concept artist, and animation. And since in our country there are really few video game studios, I saw an opening as a game tester, and I took it because that was my opportunity to be close with a studio, understanding how games are created. And that gave me, the common language between us artists, but also engineers. So that resonated with me a lot and gave me a lot of knowledge on that. And I knew that at some point it's going to be an opportunity to me to prove myself as an artist on there. And I think it was 2013 when the first time I met John and the whole Making Fun gang when I was working in a studio here in Uruguay. Fast forward a little bit more, I got the chance to prove myself as an artist in the local studio, keep working on the freelancer stuff, and also got a call for opportunity to work on a different company, Edamax, basically as an artist, as a lead artist, taking the whole small team with a really high skilled team with engineers and also artists, basically to improve the way that the games were built, And since like Ismael, RPGs are my jam, that are the games that are really I'm most passionate about. I remember Josh sent me a message and say, "Hey, Mauri, we are going in this new adventure of Making Fun. I really want you to be here." I knew Josh, I knew John, I knew the whole team, and I for some reason, okay, this is meant to be. People that I love to work with, people we're just friends, friends that are really talented, that work together and put up passions in video games. So I took that opportunity, and here we are. Here we are in creating new adventures together.
Yeah, that's really. I love the way you describe it, because it just made me think back to the last company I started, Play First, back in I don't even remember when that was, a long time ago. And what I loved about the early days of Play First is that we were all friends, and there was no politics, and like you think of a lot of companies, the political nature of companies, there was none of that there, and but we lost that as we grew. And so at Making Fun, we're a smaller team, and as you were saying that, I was reflecting, oh yeah, I've got that again. It was like that again, and that's something that is very special to us here. I know, because we're not only working for ourselves and to make our company succeed for our own reasons, but also for all the people around us, the team around us, and our players. And so it's very much a positive kind of environment. Yeah. So thanks for that memory. And then Josh, let's bring it home here.
Yeah, I have a rather unique story. I've always wanted to have my own video game studio. I have an identical twin brother, and we would just come up with imaginary games when we were kids and come up with games on the spot, little ideas for video games. And at some point in time, about 15 years ago, we just decided to do it. So we got together, we started a game studio. We had this idea of this game that we had for a long time. It was a collectible card game. It was called Clash: Rise of Heroes, where there were superheroes and a lot of kind of humor injected into the game. The game kind of unveiled through comic books, and it was really cool. And it was it was small. We were a tiny little studio. We didn't have much money, but we did our best with the money that we had, and we kind of really thrived in telling stories. And the game ended up being pretty successful, especially for the size of our team. And through that process, I met John, and this is 12 years ago. So John and I have been working together for a long time. John, at that time, was the CEO of Making Fun, still is, and he published the game, and kind of the rest is history. And I joined Making Fun full time about 7 years ago. I'm the head of games, and mostly it just means that I do most of the design. But we're all designers, so we're all wearing design hats. And yeah, just kind of a little more about what you guys were talking about before. It is really hard for remote companies to build culture, and I do think that Making Fun has done a phenomenal job at that. Like, we definitely have a culture at Making Fun, and the people that we hire and we've had for a long time, and like we all mentioned, we're all friends. And this is definitely like the best team I've ever worked with right now at this moment. So it's totally exciting time. We have a lot of coals on the fire, and we're really excited about it. So happy to be here.
Of course, we had to get on a lot of airplanes to do that, to strike up those friendships.
Yeah, a few backaches. There's definitely a few backaches.
I've got one right now because I was from my last trip. Moving furniture and then getting on an airplane, plus 20 hours in a car over the course of a week doesn't do wonders for your back.
Yeah, totally.
So we've got a great crew here. I'm glad we could all get together and meet some of our players. I think there's probably, I don't know how many people are on the stream right now, but we had 250 people or so register for the stream. So it'll be great. And then I know that afterwards I'll trim it up a little bit and post it up on YouTube, where a lot of people then just go and watch it after the fact. So this is part of we started reaching out more and experimenting with things like Twitch as part of our equity crowdfunding. We're running this campaign on WeFunder, and that is ending on Saturday. So now is pretty much the time. The really cool thing about equity crowdfunding with a site like WeFunder is you can get involved for as little as $100. And it's not a Kickstarter. You're not buying anything. You're actually investing. You're owning a piece of the company. And to put it in perspective, we've raised, I don't know, something like $570,000 or something at this point. And the bulk of that money was actually raised before the crowdfunding from private investors who have to be accredited, and there's a more complicated process. But those terms that those investors got for putting in $50,000 or $100,000, those same exact terms are available to people now on WeFunder. So you can come in and for $100 or $1,000 own a piece of Making Fun on the exact same terms. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's about crowdfunding. If you're interested in that, go check it out on WeFunder. Like I said, it's ending soon, so we'll stop harassing you about that soon. So let's switch over to talk about the games, Eternium. So we have said that so first of all, we stopped developing Eternium for a while, so we could start working on next generation projects. And then through that long process, we transitioned the development of Eternium from Dream Primer in Romania over to the team that's not too far away from Ismael and Mauricio. And actually, those guys worked on the project in its earlier incarnation, because we started out porting it from Marmalade to Unity. And so that was a technical process. A bunch of engineers were working on it, and then Mauricio getting involved from the perspective of art and all those words I said we can't say, like textures and shaders and those things, unless we explain them, right? But suffice it to say, it ended up being a pretty hard process, and we're like, well, we don't really want to spend a year to get back to the starting line. So we thought about maybe just developing, continuing the game. And then through this process, we got pretty good at modifying the live Eternium game and editing it. And so what we're going to talk about right now is what we're doing to the live Eternium game. So we shifted kind of our strategy once again to say, actually, let's just continue developing Eternium right where it is. So, you'll get an update in a couple of weeks, and you'll see some of the very first elements of what we've been doing. So, Josh, do you want to give us a little hint of what's coming with the next release, with A New Beginning Platinum, and some of what you have in mind for the next season?
Yeah, definitely. And first off, I'll just kind of start off by saying that regarding the release cycles, you'll definitely see cadence of more releases coming out quicker, with more stuff, and so we're getting very comfortable with that process, which is great. Yeah, so we have, most of you probably already know that we have a new event coming, A&B Platinum. It's the first new event that we've released in a while, so we're really excited to be able to get this out to you guys. It's a competitive event, be 3 hours of gameplay, so there'll be a lot of strategy and managing your gameplay if you want to compete in the leaderboards. I believe it starts November 3rd. We're excited to be able to just start bringing these new events to Eternium, and I think I wanted to emphasize that this is just the start. We're really excited about bringing new types of events as well, but those, of course, require more development and more thinking. But we'll definitely be announcing new events as well in the future. So we're excited about A&B Platinum. Another thing coming, this is something I know a lot of you have asked for a while, more stash. So players have been asking that for a while. You'll see, in the stash UI, you'll see a third chest that players will have access to. We'll essentially allow you to triple your stash, and that should be coming actually in the next release. So we're excited about that. And then one of the things I'm most excited about is we're releasing like this new feature that you'll be seeing. It's a new type of gemstone called a spirit stone. And these are special gems found during seasons, and they have spirits of heroes and magical creatures trapped inside them. And these spirits are going to give you really cool bonus stats and maybe even new powers down the road. But these spirits, they want to be free. So at the end of the season, the spirit stones will essentially dissipate into the ether, transmuting the gem into gold. So we're really excited about this. You'll be able to find spirit stones much like you would find normal gemstones. You'll be able to fuse them. Right now we plan on having 3 levels, and we just think that this is going to give seasons a breath of fresh air, something exciting to chase. And we're excited to bring this to you guys. So those are the 3 main things coming right now. So
spirit stones, Josh, that's all about being able to change kind of the relative effectiveness of different abilities within the season. And we want to come up with some kind of a more story-based way of doing it, a progression-based, so you can kind of adopt, get the spirit stones and fuse them and boost your powers in a seasonally themed manner.
And the first spirit stone, we'll probably keep it relatively simple as a new feature. We want to kind of test things out and not break the game, but and also get this out quickly. So I'll be announcing more of that on the Discord and talking to you guys live about it. So
that's a good point. Go on over to Discord if you want to weigh in, ask detailed questions, and give your thoughts on that. And I also just put a chat into the Twitch chat, asking if anyone has any questions. Go ahead and put them there. I'm Grumpy John. I tend to use Grumpy John as my personal username on gaming services, And I decided for professional reasons, John Funmaker would be a more appropriate one for work things, but I forgot I was logged in over there on my personal account. So great. Okay, so the engineers working primarily on Eternium are Matias and Diego, two guys that are not too far away from Ismael and Mauricio, but they're not on this call. So we are going to switch next into discussion of a game that Ismael and Mauricio are focusing on as their main, not only main project, but their passion. I think hopefully you'll see this come through because I know they're very excited about it. There's an interesting process. We'll kind of give you the background on how we got here and get into some of what we're doing now. This is kind of how the magic of games works. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of a view inside the sausage factory and see how, where does this thing come from? And so what you're going to see is a peek into the early parts of the process. And we'll talk about how we get from the early parts of the process through to shipping a game. And I think it also speaks to why a studio like Making Fun, where we've been working on a lot of games and we have a lot of ideas and technology to draw from, and we're able to, with a new project, go quickly from idea to implementation because we've got so much. We can literally copy paste some code and different functionality within Unity. So the guys will be talking about that. And so I'm going to give a big reveal right now. Are you ready for it? Because we've got a name for this game. This is the big reveal.
Oh,
the next
drum
game.
roll.
What's that?
Drum roll.
Drum roll.
You probably can't hear my drums. I'm playing the drums.
So the new game that Mauricio and Ismael are going to be working on. Here, I'll let you, Ismael, why don't you tell everyone? I know you love the name.
So the name of the new game is Heroes of Eternium. So I might as well talk about it a little. So the idea is that as we developed Eternium, we figured out that there's just, we wanted to do something new and something that is also like simple and casual to play. Eternium is a more complex game. It requires you to play for, longer sessions. We want to figure out a game where the idea is that you can play with just one hand. So with the phone portrait mode, vertical, the idea is that you just play with your thumb. Mechanics, let's not say mechanics, but the idea is that the game is controlled in a similar way to games like Archero or games in that genre, or similar games to that. But we are taking we have a different take on how that game is going to work. Instead of like a top-down view where you see the world from above and you like an isometric look, we decided to go with a more third-person look, like a cinematic camera that turns around and interprets what you want to be looking at, depending on where you're moving and when you're fighting, where the action is happening. So it is like a simpler, pocket-sized RPG that you can just play casually. And the idea is the core foundation of the game is just playing with one hand. There are no games in the store, in the Play Store or App Store that work like that. Most RPG games, the harder they get, they're all landscape. Landscape, I mean, phone in horizontal position, and you're forced to play with both hands, and it has some advantages, but it also detracts a little from the experience that we want to create. So I don't know. That is like the foundation that we have. So right now we're in a experimentation phase. We have in the first few weeks of development, we're almost a month into development now. But first we focus on moving and camera, how the camera should move, and figure out what you want to be looking at, how it turns around, because since you don't control the camera directly, like in most games, you move with the stick on the left and you use the right side to control the camera for games like Genshin Impact or other similar games. But since the idea is that you're not going to use both hands, the game needs to know what you want to be looking at. So a lot of time was invested into figuring out how the camera should behave. It's not in a point where we can show how it's looking, because a lot of the design is rapidly changing. We're at a point where we have a lot of branching options. Like we try different cameras, we try different configurations for the enemy. How fast they move, how close they need to be to hit you, how much damage it takes to kill them. So there's a lot of decisions. How many enemies do you fight? 2 or 3 enemies? Do you have 10? Do you fight 30? So there's a lot of decisions that change the game entirely, and every path we take could take us into a completely different game.
It's funny you say that, right? But like, I think from the perspective of a person who's not as involved in the development, it looks highly similar from kind of afar. And I think that comes back to what you were saying. The primary vision for this game was to be a game that you control with one finger, with one thumb, and it's portrait mode, and you're seeing this beautiful world, and you're in Eternium. You're seeing it like you haven't seen it before. You're still fighting bad guys and RPG, but as you said, at the same time, from a developer perspective, there are infinite numbers of choices. And so that, I think, is, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, Ismael, where that's kind of the inside the sausage factory view of how a game is made. You have a vision, you kind of know what you want to do pretty quickly, but now you have to find the fun. Like, what's the most fun way to play this game? Is it battling, 1 or 2 monsters, or 30? Is it, is it the camera way back here or closer in? Is it moving? How does, like, all those details are really the kind of the magic of what makes a game fun or not fun.
So Shintara asked in chat if you need a good gyroscope. You don't. It doesn't use any of that. The camera rotates, to face the direction you're moving while you're not fighting. But when the fighting starts, it's like from behind you towards the enemies. And it has some, complex logic that we don't need to get into, but we try to nail like a cinematic feeling where it's kind of like being inside of a movie, because you're running around, and it allows you to appreciate the landscape. So that's something that in a top-down games, games with the camera from above, like Diablo.
Or Eternium.
Or Eternium, yeah.
The camera angle that we're kind of playing with right now, there's definitely a sense of discovery and ooh, what's that? I want to go check that out, which really just doesn't really come through in the top-down games. But just kind of to the point of all of this is, like, if you could think of us as a factory, we're the factory making fun, right? And we are currently in the process of making fun. And it's a lot of experimentation, and it's a lot of getting on calls every single day and talking about what we like and what we don't like, and hey, let's try this. Now we get back in the call tomorrow and we talk about that, and we're definitely in the process of making fun.
And also one great thing about this particular development is that we took a different take on how we develop things. Like it was we set ourselves a goal to have something that we can test out internally in just 1 week. So we put a lot of constraints and limitation to let our creativity really be pushed, push our own boundaries and get ourselves outside of our comfort zone and try to make something just in 1 week, even if that requires some really wire, attaching things
and long nights
and long nights. It was a really intense week, but we managed to come up with something that felt really unique. And I think that there's the key words that we are always repeating internally, that are cinematic, immersive, unique. Because right now it's not any game out there that feels the same way on this. And this comes from the fact, like we decide, okay, let's play this game just with one hand. And that, even if that sounds like, okay, it's easy, you're playing a game with just your thumb, the challenges that that surround that idea, it's incredible technical challenge just to make that experience.
Yeah.
And now we are, like after that initial first week, we had this beautiful work. We took an art direction that was, it's different from what we have right now in other games that we're really passionate about. We think that like feels that goes in hand with this idea of immersive cinematic and exploring game. We want to keep that from the RPG. Both of our like with Isma, we are both D&D players or RPG players, so we like the whole idea of exploring, and we talk with Josh about all these things that we can create. It's like right now we have all the very first foundation for building infinite amount of games. So right now we are just testing out different scenarios just to make sure that we are making the right choices and set out like a clear path for where are we going with this exciting project.
It's amazing. I think like I make an analogy to the difficulty of making a game like Eternium that you can play with one thumb. It's incredibly challenging. It's like
Yeah.
Writing a novel is in many ways easier than writing a short story, right? It might take a little longer, but a short story, you have to really think about what's the essence of what I'm trying to convey. And you're thinking about how you can make it beautiful and literary and poignant. And your word choice has to be precise. Well, it's kind of like that with a game that can be so elegant and simple, but there's a lot going on. So how to do that, how to convey that sense of epic gameplay that we have with Eternium in a more simple, approachable game. And so the idea here is we have 3 games in development, right? We have Eternium. Eternium is in active development again. The team on Eternium is actually larger than, so the heroes of Eternium team, you're looking at it. It's Ismael and Mauricio, banging back and forth 100% of their time, 110% of their time. And then Josh is working on both Eternium and some on Heroes with ideas. But right now, a lot of that design work is really tweaking values and where the camera goes and the art and lighting and all of that to make that cinematic experience. And so it's really Ismael and Mauricio in the details of the code, because that's the game mechanic, right? The mechanic, what you do, right? In Eternium, you make gestures, you cast a spell, you move your character over here while you're firing there. You might change weapons. You have to configure, so a lot of different things are going on in Eternium that you as the player, that's kind of your mechanic, right? To cast a spell or to get a combination of effects. But when it's just your thumb, all that stuff is being done by the technology for you. That's the game mechanic, right? Is kind of movement, but you're causing all these other things to happen. It's extraordinarily difficult. So, but the cool thing is that the rapid progress you guys have made. It's because you didn't even though you started with a blank canvas, you had a lot to draw from, right? So, how did you do, like when spells are happening in the game? They were happening in the first week. That was leveraging work that had been done in the Unity version of Eternium, right?
Yeah, and remember the video that like everyone saw in a past stream. It's like a lot of things that we were doing for that project. We took that as a as the kickoff for some of the things that we are doing on this project. Even though we are changing that slightly to fit our own logic behind it. But speaking from the art, art-wise, definitely, we took advantage of the things that we've done in the last year, and that's kind of like the mindset that we are having with this project as well. It's like every little work that we do, we need to do that smart enough, just make sure that it can fit not only in this project, but also in this. What happens if you want to create a different game in 2 years in the future? Like we are smart enough to make something that is modular for future projects. And I think that's kind of like the mindset that we call it. The first week was kind of like a hackathon, when you're just working. I don't know. We spend sleepless hours of work in that week, but just making sure that everything is scalable. And that's kind of like the mentality behind all of these things.
Yeah. So and Shintara asks if it's going to be an idle RPG. No, definitely not.
No. No, no.
You're not building an idle RPG. Maybe,
No.
maybe someday in the future, I don't know. I don't have
This is
anything
a
wrong
very
with idle
active
RPG.
playing, but we're trying to
Yeah.
balance it, right? Because you don't want to be like tense, but you want to feel intensity, right?
Of course, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We're engineering emotion without a doubt.
Yeah, for me,
that's our job as creators, for sure.
Yeah, the analogy that I like to use in that is like when you're looking at a painting, you know, you have places when you rest your eyes, and then you go to different areas where there's, you know, contrast between soft edges, hard edges, lighting. There's so much detail in some part of the painting, but then you have places when you let your brain rest, and that's kind of like the same thing right now. We are trying to find, you know, a nice synergy when you are. There's a fluidity in the game right now that, you know, allows you to have that tense moment when you're battling a bunch of enemies, but also a moment to relax, you know, cool down yourself a little bit, trying to come out to how you're gonna face the new enemies that you are seeing in front of you. So, you know, finding those things and tweaking those things are really part of an exciting thing, because it's like Ismael, Josh, and I jumping on a call and looking at the things that you're doing and just, you know, doing things on in the moment, right? So we are seeing it's like it's easier for us to start testing something. And for example, with Isma, we're trying to figure out, okay, what is the right amount of enemies that you can face with this type of camera in this open area or in closer area, because we tested out different types of environments, and now comes the part where we decide, okay, with these abilities that we have, we already designed, with the behaviors of the enemy, okay, what feels right, you know, because we want to have that movement, that fluid movement of the character. It's definitely not an idle game. It's definitely not.
Yeah, and as Travis indicated in the chat, we are purposefully not showing it yet. We do feel we've got something incredibly unique. We want to be the first ones to take this to market. We are, you know, we're artists. We're perfectionists. We're going to go quickly, but we're not going to release the game until it's ready. And there are certainly people that could maybe bring a game that looks like this to market quickly if they were to see it. We actually spent a long time talking about what we would talk about to be able to tell you basically what the game is. But obviously from the questions, we're still being vague enough that we're not giving away everything. And the devil really is in the details. I mean, like the way these guys are talking about how many different variables, and it's almost a completely different game. So we trust that the process we're going through as gamers, who really are at the top of their art form as professionals in the industry, you know, Mauricio and Ismael, they are going to find this fun, and Josh, and we are going to we're going to have something really special when we release it. So we're really excited. And again, the key thing here is we're not trying to recreate Eternium with this game. We're trying to leverage the brand, leverage the feeling. And what you're going to see with what Making Fun produces over the next year are 3 different games that are cohesive in a way, but dramatically different, right? So Heroes of Eternium is this game we're talking about now. We have Eternium. We will be working on Act 5. I mean, we already started working on Act 5 in the very preliminary stages, and we mentioned some of the features that are coming sooner. But you know, Act 5 will be a lot of what you think it will be, what you can imagine, and that's going to take some time. So we want to have some other things to come out in the meantime. And so we feel that by completing Eternium, and not only completing it, but setting it up for even more years of diverse, fun gameplay, that gives us the freedom to do something more experimental, like Heroes of Eternium, that we think could be a massive hit, just because it's so unique in the market and already immediately fun. And then Project Artemis, which Dream Primer, of course, are working on, which will be, you know, like Eternium's big brother, right? This is going to be co-op multiplayer, big open world. You know, so these are 3 different games, and actually, as an Eternium fan, you might want to play all of them, and we hope you do, right? We hope you want to play all of them. So what everyone is wondering then, so you're not showing me anything right now. When are you going to show me something, and when can I play?
That's well. First of all, one of the cool things about these last weeks, it was the reaction from the internal team. That was something that, you know, got us motivated. Like, okay, we are definitely on the right track for something really, really interesting and unique. And so right now, we are in a stage when we are fine tuning the details on and setting the right track. Are we committing with this camera, or are we tweaking? There's some still like a couple of weeks for still nailing that experience down correctly. So we can start talking about how we can. Hopefully next week we can start talking about how this game is gonna unfold and even design what it experience from now on is gonna be that. But we want to really set the basics, mechanics, and the foundation to establish that, and then just commit with that direction that we want to take. I don't know what you guys think about showing things for the community. We like spending time for creating a video takes a lot of time, and we are kind of like using all full time to the full development of this project. So I'm not exactly sure if I don't know.
Yeah, I would expect we'd probably put out some sort of teaser first.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like an actual video gameplay, we're probably a little bit away from that. Our goal has always been to get some sort of closed beta or closed alpha, whatever you want to call it, into your hands so you can start playing with it in 6 months. So we still have that goal. And
we're 1 month
I think
into
it's
that.
reasonable. Yeah, exactly. We're 1 month into that. So that's I think we can reach that goal.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do everything we can do.
From my perspective, balancing the desire to keep it secret from potential copycats and the desire to get it into our players' hands as soon as possible so we can get feedback is, I think, when we feel that we've nailed that fun mechanic, the thing you're actually doing with your thumb and what happens around you, and it's more about fine-tuning, that's the moment I think we want to get people involved. And and then we stake our claim, we start marketing it, we start showing the world what we're doing. And then if people want to copy us, they're clearly copying, and we've kind of put our foot forward. And then we, from that point on, it's kind of a downhill run to get to the finish line, where it's like, okay, more content, tweaking some of, certainly the difficulty is going to be something that's going to need a lot of balancing. But content. So when we talk about the process and looking inside the sausage factory, right? One of the earliest thing is, what's the fun? So if you're a copycat game developer, and what you do is you go out and say, we're going to make Clash of Clans, but with different artwork or something. There's not a lot of design in that, right? There's no mechanics design. It's an engineering process to see how can I implement what those people implemented. When you're doing something that's completely novel, like what we're doing with Heroes of Eternium, there's a ton of R&D that goes into just how does the basic game feel. But then you get into that kind of classic mode of game design and game production, which is, okay, well, what's the progression system? What's the user journey over the course of the game? How much content do we need to do that? Content it's literally art, and it's mostly art and story, right? And you design levels. How many levels do we need? How big is the world? And that's kind of, once you figure out the game, and we're not there yet, right? But once you figure out the game, then it's a matter of some pretty simple math in a spreadsheet to figure out how long it's going to take you to develop the rest of it and put it together, and then of course testing. So, and the better job you do of making sure you've got a really robust engine, and by engine here I mean the actual gameplay systems. If it's technically sound early, then you're kind of, you want to get that bug-free kind of solid experience early. Then it literally is just adding content to finish the game, which I'm making sound not difficult, but it's, again, for like a copycat game developer, that's the entirety of their project. And for better or for worse, Making Fun, we've always set out to do things that are pretty different, and sometimes it takes that many more years to do it. So we're not necessarily known for our speed in the past, but especially with Eternium, right? But we're trying to redouble our efforts there. And I know, so Heroes of Eternium, we've got a pretty aggressive schedule. Eternium, we want to get features out as quickly as possible. We're certainly going to be, we're doing both the small things like innovations on events and small innovations with seasons while we're also doing Act 5. And we've got some new gameplay loops on the drawing board. And then Project Artemis, I know those guys at Dream Primer are working really hard to get, we're actually going to be getting into the closed alpha in just a couple weeks. So any
Nice.
closing thoughts on Heroes of Eternium, and then I'll talk a little bit about Artemis.
Well, first of all, like we are really excited about it. I think that's kind of like the consensus here in the company. We are constantly working on that. Like we are on a really intense. But when it comes from passion, you know, like you're enjoying the whole process. So we are building a game that we see ourselves as a players of that game. So that is something that is definitely, you know, resonate with us, and it's kind of like, you know, one of the biggest motivation.
Yeah, sure.
I love the commentary in the chat during the stream about who Ragadam is and spoilers versus the public has a right to know. I'll tell you the most fun thing that the crowdfunding kind of got us to be a little more like to reach out more and to do live streams, which we had never done. Right? I mean, people have been doing Twitch live streams for a long time, but and I don't think you see it so much with bigger developers, right? So if the Blizzard team's not necessarily getting on and actually bringing their art director and their lead engineer and their lead designer and the CEO of the company and talking to you and you know, and responding in real time to texts. And so that's who we are at Making Fun. We've always been very in touch. It's in the past been more through Travis being really in touch with people on the forums and more recently on Discord. And now we just kind of want to continue that. And we want to really have that back and forth with the community. We, you know, we actually will be talking about the details of some of these design decisions and getting player feedback early in the process as we, you know, for all the games. So it's, I think, really a great opportunity. And it's, you know, if you're an indie dev, you can do that. And you might not even know what you're doing in terms of marketing and brand and how to, you know, all that stuff. And if you're a big company, the marketing team doesn't let you talk. And so we're trying to, you know, be a good balance of that. Kind of, we think it's the best of both worlds. Be really in touch with the people playing the games. So we want, when you play Heroes of Eternium, when you play Eternium, which will be even sooner, the new features, you can see a little of your own hand in there, your own creativity, your own ideas. And so people are speculating about who Ragadam is. To be honest, we haven't decided yet. We've got a lot of ideas. And we also really want to be in touch with the fans and say, well, what do you want? How do you want this story to end? You know, we've got some ideas that will lead to kind of, well, what could be in the future, right? But we're definitely going to bring a conclusion here in Eternium to the story. And we want to, you know, we want to consider all options. Great. So I've got my list of here. So let's talk about Project Artemis. So right now we've got closed alpha starting. I think what was said most recently is in the second half of November. So I guess that's about 2.5 or so weeks. Closed alpha will work kind of in phases. So we'll have a session and people will be invited. And it's going to start on PC and iOS because we do want both form factors to get feedback on. And but not Android yet because the diverse handsets, it's just a lot more troublesome with, we're not ready for all the performance and technical bugs that might come from super low end Android devices. We'll get to that. I have an Android phone, so we definitely play on Android. In fact, we've already been playing on Android. We're just not going to release it yet. But we're going to, as I said, we're going to do multiple sessions. So you'll have the opportunity to play for a little while, and then we'll close it down and we'll say, thank you. Here's what we learned. And then we'll go back and make some changes. And then we'll have another session and we'll invite more people. And I kind of think of it as, you know, sort of, you know, building up an onion in layers where we're going to have increasingly larger sized groups playing. We'll be testing different things at different times. So Project Artemis, and it's still a project. That's not the name of the game yet. That could be coming soon. But it will be, you know, since it's a much more technically complex project, at different times we'll be testing different things. So we might ask people to play through the quests and the story in one session and just kind of give us your general feedback. How does combat feel? And in another session, we might be saying, hey, please play in parties of 3 or 4 or whatever, and go into this dungeon and let's see, or let's get, let's try and get 100 people online and see what performance looks like, what server profiles look like. We might say, here, go from let's get everyone online at a certain time, and then we'll play follow the leader and go across the world and see as we cross different boundaries of where we've got the world sharded across different physical servers, and what happens and how does it look seamless? Are you handed off appropriately? Because we're developing some cool new stuff. So Unreal Engine is incredibly powerful for doing multiplayer games, but they still don't have the kind of functionality we need to provide a massive open world with physical servers that you're going to be handed off from one to the other. So that's some of the magic that the Dream Primer team has created. So all that stuff's going to need to be tested in different ways at different times. So by signing up to be an alpha tester, this is not like, oh, good, I'm an early access player. Early access is like 3 phases later, right? So alpha is, the game is cool. It actually looks pretty good. We're still using, it's not final art in all places, but there is some, it looks beautiful. But the content is still going to be evolving. It's not complete. We don't want you to progress too far because we want to not spoil the true story of the games until you can actually get your hands on it. But there'll be different things we're testing at different times. So I hope that makes sense. I'm happy to take any questions on that. I'll take a quick, no, Travis is not Ragadom. Although that's a good idea. I'll just see if there's any questions on Artemis here. Maybe if you guys all, ask nicely, we can get Adrian and the team to come on and do a Twitch live stream. They much prefer to be creating the game than getting in front of the video camera. So I think it might take a lot of coercion, but that would be kind of fun. Let's see. Okay. So what are we going to be releasing in the alpha? So we're kind of working right now on, and by we, I mean here, Adrian and team, working to get this 2 characters fully developed. So we'll have the mage and we'll have the warrior classes ready to go, and a good amount of content. So that's really what they're working on. There's a long list. Actually, they came up with a really cool project management technique of, it's like a spreadsheet that they can kind of really estimate how, what needs to be done and when the game's going to ship. I'm not describing it well because I've never seen anything like this. It's like, imagine like the point of what Microsoft Project is trying to do, but it's like super complicated to figure out with a Gantt chart when you're actually going to ship, and like you got to do a ton of work. They've got a way of just kind of, by having the diffs and measuring the diffs across days of the spreadsheet, seeing what their convergence is. And so right now the convergence is telling us we have to cut a little scope to get to alpha on time, but we'll do that. So, because we're super excited to get players into the game. And then you'll have a real tangible view of what is, and you've seen videos, but you'll get to feel about, when I say that this is kind of Eternium's big brother, it's the spiritual successor to Eternium. And that doesn't mean because it's a successor, Eternium goes away. We think we're really, really excited. The reason we've kind of been dancing with our strategy a little bit is we've come up with something where we have 3 viable kind of, not properties, but game types that will all be able to coexist. That's super exciting. But in terms of epic scale RPG that can compete with anything on the market, and we think be distinct with some of the hallmarks of what made Eternium great, right? Quickly getting into the fun, super intuitive controls. Just, I think fun. Like when I think about Eternium, I'm like, yeah, you look at this quick little cinematic story thing, which you can skip if you don't want to watch it, and then you're like playing and having fun. And so I think that's really important. That's my kind of game. Okay, so quickly before I switch gears, so I'm going to switch over to, we're going to add one of our investors in shortly, and he's going to tell you about his views on making fun. Warrior, mage, favorite classes. Oh, yeah. Wait till you see what we're doing with this game. The Project Artemis is going to have a lot more classes, and it's going to have some really interesting ways of. I don't want to spoil any of the. I forget what we've actually announced on the game, so I'm not gonna say too much here. So the coming soon in Eternium, I thought we removed that. We were going to remove it.
I think it's in the next update that we are removing it. But the funny thing is, we now have stuff coming soon, but.
We thought about just slightly changing the wording of coming soon, like coming real soon, or putting coming soon in quotes or something, just to like show you that maybe there is something coming soon. But yeah, we're gonna go more towards the we'll just start releasing stuff soon. Okay, so we already told about using traits of multiple classes in the hero. Yes. So that's one of the magic things. I don't think that will be visible in the alpha, right? So these are going to be the pure expressions of the classes of the mage and the warrior classes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
alpha again will be centered around those core fun mechanics, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, there's a lot there, right? Like,
yeah.
Essentially, the full mage, the full warrior are in the game. So when I say content is, the part of the project that goes from content, with Artemis, crazy, even though, right, they're making Eternium, but the next generation kind of, it's so much, it takes so long to get to, okay, well, how is, Eternium was created a while ago, and like, what do we want to do today to make a game like Eternium, but that feels great playing on PC or playing on phones, that feels great with a game controller, that feels great with touch, that feels great with keyboard and mouse, that supports the different things we want to do with these different classes and the way we want to play to offer the game and multiplayer, right? And so all these things, and getting that working in basic form takes a while. But then you go into that phase of, okay, you've got 2 classes, we need 6 classes, or however many classes we'll ship with. So it's kind of that process of getting to finding the fun. It's a lot about tweaking timing and how movement works. And it's a different technology, right? So this is Unreal Engine versus Marmalade, a more raw C++ game engine. So just, kind of reproducing the fun takes a while. Okay, so we're gonna switch. So if Ismael and Mauricio and Josh want to pop off, we'll get Bo on. I'm gonna take a break. Let's see if my take a break functionality works. And we'll be back in 30 seconds. We're live.
Yeah. Let's see.
You're good. We're
Should I turn
live.
off the live stream? I've got the live stream on. I think it's.
Yeah, just ignore it or mute the audio, because otherwise you'll get feedback. I'll see if I can change this to, woo, look at us.
And let's see.
I need to get fancier software for controlling the Meet integration into the live stream.
But I leave Google Meet on?
Yeah, you're fine. We're streaming. We're live right now.
There's a gap.
Yes, there is, because we're having our communication and then Amazon processes it and puts it out on Twitch. So it's a little bit of a delay. So just ignore that.
Okay.
I'm
gonna look at Google Meet then and ignore the live stream.
Yeah.
But I muted it. So there's no feedback. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Exactly. You sound great. You look great. How you doing, Bo?
Good too. I feel great, John.
So everyone, this is Bo. So Bo recorded a video with our consultant, Travis, different Travis, and they had a little conversation. And after I saw that video and I posted it in a WeFunder update, I thought it might be interesting to have Bo on and just say, in more of a live format, and in case people have questions, what did you see in Making Fun? And, why did you invest? And I'll tell you, it was a long process. You put me through the ringer.
True.
And then, what have you seen since? And what, that for people that are either just interested in companies, like look, we're talking about the WeFunder, the investment, but I think for me, it's all about, we're a small game development company, and that's pretty interesting for some people. And so, let's just share all different aspects of that. There's a business to games that I think as a player is really interesting to understand. It explains a little bit of why some of the other games, like why games work the way they do, why they monetize the way they do. We use the word monetization, which we hate, right? We're trying to make Eternium, Heroes of Eternium, Project Artemis. We're constantly thinking about how not to be greedy. I think with Eternium, I think it's probably made the least amount of money of any game that's had 37 million downloads, just because it's such a generous economy, and players constantly saying, I buy stuff in Eternium because you don't need to buy anything in Eternium, which is why I spend money in Eternium. And so we love that. At the same time, it doesn't let us have the scale we'd like to have. And so we're really trying to walk a very interesting line. And some of our future games, including Heroes, might not be really free to play. They might be more free, but with downloadable different content. So you're like, oh, okay, I want to buy that next chapter or that kind of thing. And even maybe appear in some subscription services where they're free for subscribers, like free, And then if you're not a subscriber, there's a different model. But this is all because those guys you saw before, we're all employed. Myself, we're all employees of Making Fun. This is what we do. These are our jobs. We have to get paid. And we're passionate about what we do, and we want to have our creative output be a fair model, a good deal. You go to Starbucks, they don't give you coffee for free. But you hope you go back because they gave you a good coffee at a good price, or so you think. I make my coffee at home most of the time. Can't make your own video. You can't make your own video games, but they're not as fun as Eternium. So, Bo, tell people about your background a little bit. I know you've been around the game space. We actually met years ago and then reconnected more recently. So maybe tell a little of the story.
Sure. And no, absolutely. So I have been in video games. I moved out to California a long time ago to be in a multimedia company. Then I did some enterprise software stuff. Early internet, we did high performance e-commerce sites, made some money there. Then, of course, took it and made my own game company back in around 2004. Really fun. We were trying to do interactive sitcom. We were working with Sony, PlayStation, Xbox, PC. That was really fun, kind of cutting edge. We did a lot of interesting stuff with AI and episodic content. And then, sold that company into a Facebook company. So I learned about called Law Apps, became 6 Waves. So we did a lot of games there that were successful. Worked at Pop Sugar, where I did female-oriented games. Some were really successful. Retail Therapy was one of them. Eventually, I was at Kixeye, which was the highest, speaking of monetization, highest monetizing games on Facebook at the time. We basically built the precursor to Clash of Clans. Real-time strategy games. I don't know if you guys have played that. So I've done male games, female games. Also did a stint at EA, which is all about monetization. And I anyway, very aligned with John and his thoughts. And was it Imager? If you guys know that, was one of the early. It's kind of where the meme was invented.
So you got some cred in video games. We're hearing here.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you, Kixeye. I don't play a lot of free-to-play games myself because I don't particularly like the model. Because a lot of times I feel pretty quickly like, oh, I spend $5, I need to spend 10. I spend 10, I need to spend 50. Like this is just, But I'll tell you, I bought workers in Backyard Monsters. Backyard Monsters is what it was.
Backyard Monsters. I love it. You played that. Yeah.
And I monetized. I bought the workers because it was the best deal, right? I mean, they worked while you slept. 100%. You basically played the game while you weren't playing the game. That's a huge mechanic now.
Yeah, no, everyone does it now. We essentially were you're selling time, and we sold you parallelism, and that was almost everything. Every core concept we created translated to Clash of Clans, except for the world map. So they really took our idea. They made key changes, and listen, they're a hell of a company. That's Supercell. I think those Finnish companies are great in terms of not trying to deliver value for cost, and I think Making Fun is one of those kind of things. So I'd seen John. I knew about Diner Dash. I'd actually hired some of his ex-employees who just thought he was awesome. They were awesome. So I had a lot of good feelings about him. Then we were introduced through a mutual friend, and I'll just say. I did put John through the ringer. I asked for all of his data. I did a deep dive. The thing I care about, which John referenced, is retention. Everyone, they talk about the 3 R's in video games. If you guys are interested in investing, it's reach, revenue, retention, and all of your KPIs roll up under those. So reach is, how good are you in advertising and acquisition? How good are you in getting your players to tell other players about you? Revenue is how much money you're making per day, per player. But it all comes down to retention, though. If your players are sticking around and enjoy the game, then they're going to tell their friends. They're going to give you money. And if you get retention right, and it's the hardest thing to do, and companies screw it up all the time, they get greedy, they get obnoxious, they get lazy, they start putting out crappy content. Making Fun has never done that. So the fact that Eternium has had the retention it's had, and Hidden Express and all the other games John's make, is a testament that these guys make really good games. They pay attention to the live operations. and they get people coming back, and they have loyalty, and it's family, and there's ownership of the customer. That's the other thing. Meaning, I mean, they own the game. The John and Travis and all those guys on his team listen. So I find that very compelling.
And that's aspirational. I think, again, we're taking that to the next level now, really involving players in what we're doing. And so I'm super excited. So one of the things you did, a lot of investors, they do diligence. They ask for a data room. They ask for your financials. Bo was like, I want all that. And don't stress it, because I'm going to build my own financial model. He built his own complex financial model about our company. And so he needed to get enough information from me to build his own model to see, like, okay, despite whatever John's saying, do I think this can really work?
Yeah.
Right. And, because of things like being generous with players and not being greedy. Okay, well, can you still make enough revenue to support the growth of a company? And,
we even fed your roadmap into it and made guesses about how long it would take to build, what it would cost, what kind of revenue you'd get.
That roadmap, sure, it's evolved a little bit since then, but
that's right.
It's better for the better.
Let's revisit. So anyway, I want to say I had so much fun hanging out with these guys that I asked to be inserted a little bit. So I've been just on my background. I've kind of done every role in games, from CEO to product manager, designer, programmer, art director, etc. So it just makes me excited to be with a neat team, and that's what I really discovered in the diligence process. Not only were their numbers good, but John has great people in every key position, and then it stops. There's no mediocrity. I'd say this is as lean a team can be without being hamstrung. It's like if you're an NFL team, they got great skill positions, but they have no backups. So hopefully no one gets injured, right? So,
no, that's why we want to add a little scale to the company, right? We'd like to get the company back to profitability and, have a little cushion there so we can get some backups.
Absolutely. So one thing that I'm trying to get John interested. Well, John's already interested, but we're looking into AI, and I just wanted to say it's really exciting. But the point I want to make about it, there's real potential, but this AI is not a replacement for anybody on the team. It's like we can go out and ask all the great writers of all time how they tackle something, and then we have to sit through it and process it and think that's an interesting twist, or that's a nice bit of color. And then, on the art side, same thing. So that's an R&D area for us. So we can make, I think it'll matter for Eternium too, make it as rich as possible.
Yeah, but I kind of think of it as turning artists into art directors.
Correct.
Turning an art, like an end employee, like a leaf node into a root node, where it's like each artist has a team of artists working for them.
That's exactly right. It does not replace artists. Hell no.
But what it does, I think one of the challenges, and we talked earlier in the stream about how the game goes from this experimentation phase into the content production phase. And we literally call it, kind of like production. And production is make more content. And a lot of games, that's a heavy part of our budget. And so we're thinking about, well, how can we reuse content? And so I think the interesting thing AI brings is the ability to just have endless new content, right? So one of the challenges historically in video games, you want to have different branches where player choice is meaningful in how a game evolves. Well, the hard thing about that is if, you do the basic math and you just split, in a binary tree, and you think about how many different, elements of content, you're making like 95% of your content will never be seen by any player, or any one player will never see more than 5% of the content. That's not a cost-effective way to make games. So who knows? Again, this is R&D. We're like, it's completely separate from what we're actually building in the games. Mm-hmm. But certainly, even myself, if I'm putting together an idea or a pitch, I see what ChatGPT, and I usually use ChatGPT and Bard and compare and contrast them. I'll do that with when I have an email I want to send out to the company. I ask, I kind of run it through there and see, can I improve this? When I have an investor communication or something like that. But at Making Fun, our strategy is to be really well informed about AI and to be early adopters, and to follow the trends in the industry of like what's considered, first of all, legal, second, ethical, respectable to the content creators. And what we're really interested in, and some of the tools are getting there, is we have deep libraries of art and story. Like that's all original creation owned by us. We would like to be able to put that into the AI and have it give us more of that, right? We create a new species of alien character. We tell it, tell the AI the different types of aliens there are that look like that, and then maybe get some of that production done. So Bo, like, what have you? So Bo's like basically, as an investor, been our chief of R&D for AI.
Yeah,
so why don't you throw some buzzwords out there?
Sure. Well, I can throw a lot of buzzwords out, but this is the wrong audience. But John's exactly right. We want to amplify and extend the style that they've already created. We're not trying to rip off World of Warcraft or anything like that. We're making fun. We got our own way of doing things, and we're going to vet everything. And also say, I think Heroes of Eternium, is that a name you mentioned?
Yes. Yeah. If not, you just did. But no, we did.
Okay. Oops. No. Heroes of Aternum is not using my stuff. It's a tight, awesome game. I won't say too much. All I can say is everything I felt about this team has been vindicated in the progress they've made on this. I've never seen a small company pivot like this and create something special as quickly as they did. So that's all I'm going to say. You guys need to check it out. It's going to be a great deal. And just going back to monetization, I feel strongly like, this is awesome entertainment we're providing, and it's almost, we're gonna find a way where you can play for a lot less, play very effectively for a lot less than you're paying for Netflix or something, and you're going to get more value out of it. I mean, we want your
or maybe play on Netflix. Go tell Netflix they should. They
should
want
that's
some
right.
Eternium.
Hell yeah, that's in the works. So you're gonna they always say when you get crunched, you make your car payment. Yeah, is the last thing you cut before your mortgage. It's going to be making fun, car payment, mortgage. That's what I believe, because you're going to get so much value out of making fun. It's going to keep you sane as the world's crazy. But
from an investor perspective, we've always found that entertainment does pretty well even in bad economies, because there's a lot of discretionary things you can cut, but a high value entertainment product like a probably like a Netflix subscription or something.
Absolutely.
And so we're all, I think, a lot of people right now are and I'd say that making fun, right? We're no longer profitable. We were profitable for many years, and so we're tightening our belts, right? And that's just a reality. And we feel very strong. Like this is, I can tell you, I've been in video games for a long time across Sega, Shockwave, Play First, and now Making Fun. And I've never been more excited by a portfolio of products. And in this time, it's about quality, not quantity. At Play First, we had 20 games in development at any one time. And because we figured this out, we did a lot of spreadsheets and analysis to figure out that we needed 20 games in various stages of production. And that includes pre-production, not just concepts. We're actually paying people to work on them in order to ship one a month, which back in early 2000s, it was a downloadable model. You tried the game for 30 minutes, you like it, you pay $20 to keep it, which I love that model personally, because then you get 20 hours of entertainment out of a game, or in some cases hundreds of hours, for $1 an hour to 25 cents an hour. We were paying more than that in the 80s in arcade games, putting a quarter in for just a couple minutes of fun.
Games were $60 back then, if you think about it.
Well, that was the innovation, because it was a better deal than spending a quarter for like 2 minutes of entertainment.
That's right.
Yeah. So we talk, here we're talking because Bo's an investor, we talk about monetization, but that's important, because what happened to the video game industry with the free-to-play movement is we went from a state where that $60 game, the game designer, the artist, the engineer, they were spending 100% of their time and energy creating the best game they possibly could, so that you as the game player would say, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. I can't wait for them to put out their next version 3-4 years from now, right? And then of course that model evolved to the annual release of FIFA, or now it's EA Sports, whatever it is. But but then with free to play, so much of the design energy, so much of the implementation energy, this new role of a product manager, really thinking about the design of how to get more money out of your pocket. And so, I think it's a gradient where taken to one extreme, that's really, really kind of evil. And on the other extreme, which is where we try and be, we're just trying to give people amazing value for their money. And really to make the kind of people, the ability to spend lots of money in the game, to move that more towards generosity, where you're buying stuff for your guild, your clan, and cosmetics. And so if you really want to support the ecosystem and have some really rare cosmetics, but what we really don't want is pay to win, because that's really what we're talking about, right? Is this notion that either pay to get through a single player game or pay to win in a multiplayer session. It's like, and we've had conversations on the leaderboards, or on the forums, and people are like, well, why do people cheat? Because if you cheat, you didn't really win. So cheating in a game is like, why did you bother to play the game?
Yeah.
Right. But people do, and or people spend a lot of money, and those are not the kind of games that we want to make or promote.
It's funny, John. I ran Design Home, which was the EA for a while, and it was I think the highest monetizing casual game. And I laugh because if you asked our million daily players if they were gamers, they'd all say no. Yet they were spending 50 cents a day per person on average, and some of them spent tens of thousands of dollars in the game. I mean, a statistically significant amount. And we had probably a third of our game team was focused on analytics and monetization, merchandising, running A/B tests. They were so aggressive about it, and we don't have that bandwidth, and we're not going to do it. And we're going to offer some good deals. We're not going to micromanage it, but we just need to cover costs.
And retention, I think, again, being the ultimate thing. That's what a player wants to hear. You're being retained because you're having fun.
That's right. If you want us to focus on retention, that means it's a good game. The other thing I wanted to say as an investor, having invested in a number of small companies, having raised money, the terms John was giving, and I think they're the same for WeFunder, are really what a company with 3 people and a whiteboard would ask for, not a company with 10 years of experience and a proven, hardened team that's a family. And in John's case, Elisa is actually his wife, and I mean, she'd be someone you'd want if you were married to her or not on your team. She's that good. It's not a nepotism issue.
We had a couple of other data analysts, and then I was complaining about it one day at home. Like, I could never find a great data analyst, and my wife said, well, maybe I could come back to work. This is after we had a couple kids. Maybe I could come back to work and be your data analyst. Like, okay.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's a mind blow. It's powerful as hell when it works, and it works here. So these terms are great. I just couldn't believe. I was like, I put John through the ringer because I thought it was too good to be true, and it was too good it was true. It was still too good. So I rushed to get my money in. And anyway, this is still an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's consistent with our philosophy on players and monetization is like, we're just not greedy. We want to make money for people, and especially normal investor people. Like, if we get to the point where we raise venture capital again, and I've done that in the past, I raised 25 million of venture capital at my last company. I wanted to give them a return as well, but it's not their money, right? They're professionals. They invest other people's money, and you want to give them a return. We're all on the same side of wanting to build the company and have it be big, but this is different. At Making Fun, it's my friends, it's my family members that are investors in the company. It's my employees. It's me, and all of the investors that came in this round before the WeFunder round and during the WeFunder round have preferred stocks. So you get paid before I do. So that's we want to all win together.
Yeah, I just want to say to the new investors out there, it's like, oh, I don't know enough about all this stuff. If you believe in the company and you believe in the people behind the company, then you should be confident enough to put some money in. It's just don't put in more than you can lose. All investments are risky, but you know more than you realize. These VCs who come in are not they don't have the product knowledge that you guys will have. So I mean, I don't want to say, trust me, you don't know who the hell I am, but all I say is I put my own money in at these terms, and I'm very, very happy. So And I've had the other thing that typically investors put money in, and then the company kind of keeps them at arm's length because they don't want to see how the sausage is being made. I mean, I'm seeing it all.
Yeah.
And
well, by the way, that's usually not a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
and if there's one thing I learned over the course of running Play First and raising all that venture money and having venture capitalists on your board is how to manage VCs, or in my case, how not to manage VCs.
Right.
And a venture board. But what I tried to do with Making Fun, another part of, choosing your investors is wisely is an important thing. And, with a guy like Bo, you've got such great experience. You're a great sounding board. And, honestly, we're getting a lot of great free work from him.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean, like, literally, he's our head of R&D for AI, and he's not getting paid. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so what Bo gets out of it, he's getting to play with some of the Eternium assets and the story and things like that. So it's kind of fun when we see our own stuff producing results.
It's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun, and I'm excited. We're gonna get after it even deeper in a little bit here. But as soon as we kind of get through this and Heroes of Eternium, we don't want to take any focus away from that because it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, I've been thrilled. I've had a ball in my association with Making Fun. It's exactly what John says it is, and you can't go wrong. This is the real deal. It's the other comment I'd want to make. There's in the game space, there tends to be a lot of small indie companies, and then there's really big companies, and there's not a lot in the I'd call the sweet spot, and that's where Making Fun is. They don't have layers of corporate overhead telling them what to do, or monetization experts. We're all about extracting the last cent out of a customer, or in professional investors are demanding returns and sometimes making you do things that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the game long term or the customers. So they don't have that, but they do have enough people to deliver quality stuff. And it's really more that everyone individually is strong, and they've been working together a long time. That can't be overestimated. They can complete each other's sentences. They know how to give stuff to each other. It's clean handoffs. It's just smooth and efficient, and that's really fun to watch. It's just a well-oiled machine, and that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you can get the best, quote unquote, best people from the game industry, and you probably will still have
team matters.
Mess. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, and honestly, part of getting to an excellent team is not everybody works out. And I think I've hired people at every company I've ever worked at, where you look back later and you're like, how did that person not work out? They were really good at what they did. They interviewed really well. They could do quality work, but who knows? And we've had that at Making Fun. We've had that at every company I've worked at. But this group, I think that it's really when you get to that level of you're doing it not only for yourself, but for the person sitting next to you, even if that person sitting next to you is thousands of miles away, that's what's special. And that kind of, we've added some people that are like that, right? And then when people aren't like that, they don't tend to stick around. So
you got the cowboys, you get people with egos. There's none of that here.
And no ego, right? So like the Golden State Warriors with the magic of all those.
Yeah, I was going to say Golden State Warriors. I mean,
selfless. Steph Curry passing the ball,
but
Draymond Green wasn't getting points. He was enabling others, and so that's
so funny. I was going to say Golden State Warriors. I don't know how deep we can go with sports metaphors, but the other thing I note, I mean, every company has remote teams. I've always had remote teams in the last 20 years. This team doesn't. The guys in South America are as integrated in the team as the people in the U.S. And it's partly a time zone thing, but the languages are English is perfect. It's just there's no hiccup.
Español es así.
Sí, yo puedo hablar un poco
I used to be able to speak Spanish with the team more, but now their English is so good
you don't need to.
But I do when I go down there. We speak in Spanish.
That's cool.
I get a lesson.
I remember, learning. I remember pantalla means screen. That was one of the words I picked up when I was.
Nice.
I had to do Ecuador for a company. Anyway, it's fun. So it's a great team, and they work well together.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up soon. I wanted to ask if anyone has any final questions. I see one I'm going to address shortly. So type your final questions in if you have any. So the question is, what if the WeFunder comes to a close before the goal? What's the plan B? That's not going to happen. We're going to hit the goal. The goal is 150, and we put a big. Like most companies on WeFunder put $50,000, which is the minimum, and we wanted to have a higher minimum to show that we were confident we would raise more and that it's a meaningful amount, and we'll get there. So most people that invest on WeFunder wait until the last minute. So it's like, oh, come on, but it's true. Yeah. So it's pretty stressful. But at right now, so we've got 173 investors so far in this round, which is amazing, right? We had, I don't know, 15 before we started WeFunder. And just in this round, we've got 173. So what's going to happen is, and we've got 906, I'm looking at this in real time, 906 followers. That means people who have said, I'm interested in this. I want to get your updates specifically on WeFunder. Right. Yeah. This is people, they may be Eternium players, but they've gone over to WeFunder and they've said, hey, I want to know about this campaign. And usually, you get some percentage of those people coming in at the end. And I think like the average investment on WeFunder is $1,000. It's a little bit lower than that with us. I think because we set $100 as the minimum, we really wanted Eternium players to be able to come in and feel that it was accessible. And not like $100 isn't a lot of money, but it's an investment. It's not, you're not spending it. Like you're actually owning
an investment. It's tiny.
Yeah. And so with 906 followers, we're pretty confident we'll get there. And look, I'll buy the rest of the shares if I have to. Maybe Bo will, because Bo will backstop it. John, you can buy the rest of the shares.
Exactly. I think there are a lot of tire kickers. My wife's in the auction business, the same kind of thing. People kind of hang out until the end.
So the new question came in: is there any way to invest after the Saturday cutoff? So there is not currently. The cutoff on Saturday, and I believe it might be sometime late in the night, maybe not midnight, but Pacific time. I'm not sure. That's the last time to commit to an investment. And then what happens when you commit to an investment? Then you have, I think, 30 days to close the investment, which is to supply your credit card and they process it, or your bank information, or send in a wire. So if you're off by like a couple weeks, you need a couple weeks, you can actually go through the process, make a commitment, and then WeFunder's got a guy that actually works with people, in the cases where there's additional stuff that needs to get done. And just to also answer a question that came out earlier, Travis was saying, hey, is there any reason a person in Canada couldn't invest? I'm like, no, or some, maybe he said Canada. And then I realized, certain Canadian provinces, the governments have asked WeFunder to not allow their citizens to invest in startups.
That's not cool.
So it's basically like all the countries on the terrorism watch list from the US government and certain provinces in Canada that can't invest in WeFunder companies.
What the heck?
Governments like to protect their employees from themselves, or their citizens from themselves. Not my philosophy, but
Canada doesn't want the Canadians getting rich.
I don't know.
Socialist.
Well, I think you have to be careful. Look, I invested in a company on WeFunder just before we started this process to check it out, and I've seen a couple of others since that have been really amazing. I'm not in a position personally to go and spread a bunch of investments around in other companies, because I'm investing in making fun myself by not really getting paid, until the company gets back to profitability. So, but I think it's a wonderful platform, and it's only about 7 years old now that people in the US and around the world now can invest in startups in the same way that a venture capitalist could. And I think to your point, Bo, where you said that, a consumer can know more about a company than a VC, because you kind of know, like, do they got it or they not got it?
Yeah, totally.
And if you think we got it, invest. And if you don't think we got it, definitely don't invest. But we're confident.
Yeah, if you think they have it, then the only question is, are you getting it at the right price?
True.
And that's a hard question for a consumer. All I can tell you is you're getting it at the right price. I mean, you're not going to get a better terms ever for a company with this kind
we're probably one of the lowest valuations on WeFunder, and honestly, that's because we don't have a complex stack of investors. All of our stock prior to our previous raise was just common stock, like me. And so we've got some amazing investors like Charles Huang, who's on the WeFunder page. He was one of the founders of Guitar Hero. So he created Red Octane, I think was the name of the studio.
Yeah.
And then, Daniel James, who did Puzzle Pirates and is at Three Rings, some really great video game legends. But, they're all at common stock. A bunch of my friends also came in and have common stock. And then this new round is preferred. So even in front of them, actually, I got to call Charles and tell him to put some money in this round. And so this is a great deal. And my family owns a large percentage of the company, and then we've got a small employee base, and every employee owns shares in the company. So we just kind of want to spread it around and have all of our investors come in and also enjoy a great upside. And that's not going to remain true. Our goal now is to increase the revenue, increase the metrics in the company, so that we're a great deal. So that rather than coming back and, although I would do the WeFunder again. I think if we hit some of these metrics, we can knock it out of the park with another WeFunder raise. But if we do go back for a venture capital type of round, the price will be much higher.
Oh yeah. And they will respect the fact that we have lots of small investors. It's just like politicians, right? I mean, if you want to get on the stage at the GOP, you have to have not just money, but you need a lot of investors, and the VCs pay attention to that. So just small amounts are great. And just testament to John getting his peers to invest. And those are legends. Daniel James, Charles Wang. I'm not a legend, but I've been around for a while. I'm a legend in my own mind, but it's a big deal. These are people who know, they're even potentially competitors, and they know it when they see it. So
and then some of my friends who have also invested. I think there's a video we're going to drop later. So Bo did a video. You can check it out. It's actually probably shorter than what we just ended up talking about.
Right.
It's a little more pointed. And then we did also in one with, so Travis, our marketing consultant, Travis, did an interview also with John Asalian, who's the CEO of a marketing agency and headquartered in San Francisco called ViewStream. And he's one of the brightest marketing guys I know. He's done some work with us, light work in the past, and I'm friends with him. So I hear about some of the things, we bounce ideas off each other, et cetera. He's a brilliant marketer. He was not easy to get to invest. In fact, he didn't invest the first time, way back when. And then as he continued to follow Making Fun, he came in this round just before the WeFunder. And so, really excited to have him there as another point of validation.
Yep.
And so check out that video when it drops. I'll post a WeFunder update probably later today. So, all right, it looks like we've run out of questions. Oh, wait a minute, let's see. Do I know how many players have invested? So I haven't run the numbers. I actually can get the email addresses of everyone who's invested. So I have that, and I could cross-reference it with our player database, but Pablo's busy. Pablo and Alyssa are busy doing other things, so I didn't want to do that yet. But I might do that at some point, just out of curiosity. I'd love to find out. I think I can kind of tell just because people have the opportunity to make a comment when they invest, and almost everyone I assume almost all the comments are about Eternium. Clearly from an Eternium player, or in a few cases, Hidden Express players, and then the ones that make no comment about anything probably are more financial investors, and they tend to be on the larger side, the ones with no comments. So I'm assuming a lot of those people found us on WeFunder and said, just said nothing. They just okay, looks like a good investment. So. All right, but we hope lots more Eternium investors come in, whether it's $100 or whatever. And if not, continue to support the company, whether that's by, and Shintaro, you are great on the Discord and really helping create a community. Ludwig, I mean, we've got some of the players, I'm seeing similar usernames to what we see on Discord and on the forums. Our players also help keep things going and help keep the energy high and the creativity coming. They make newbies in the game feel comfortable when they're asking about strategy and how should I build my character, and they answer questions. And that we have Travis on the boards, and he's one person, and he supports multiple games, and he has to he's a troubleshooter and figures out if there's a problem, and if he has to run scripts or do some data research to figure out what happened. Not a lot of cases there. The tech's pretty solid, but things do happen. And so he's one person. So we really appreciate all the folks on the forums, on Discord, supporting each other. And that's what, we have one of the most amazing communities. You hear a lot about the toxicity in games, and we don't see a lot of that on our forums and on our Facebook groups and on Discord. We have some pretty good people. They're there to support each other. They're there to have a good time, and we really appreciate that. So,
Amen.
with that, we'll sign off, and we'll be back in the future. So this probably will be our last live stream before the end of the WeFunder campaign, but we'll keep up the interaction, and we enjoy it, and we'll go from there. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.